If you own real estate in Brookland or Catholic area, then this December Market Insight Report is just for you. It's me, Melvin Yates, your neighborhood real estate broker with EXIT Flagship Realty. And on this month's Brookland Catholic Real Estate Market Insight, we'll focus on empowering you with real estate facts and data. No fluff. I'm going to share the 5 things you need to know as we enter 2022. Plus, I'll give you the national data and explain exactly how it's affecting us on the local level. Now, don't forget that my office has over 160 awesome realtors, serving clients like you in DC, Maryland, and Virginia. And we would love to help you put a real estate game plan together. Now for the numbers. This month, the average sales price in all of 20017 Brookland Catholic area is $720,080. This is a 25.4% increase over the last 12 months, whopping 25.4%, and a 0.7% decrease over the last 30 days. But what that means is that if you purchased a home, let's say 1 year ago for $600,000 in Brooklyn, that home has appreciated $150,000 on average. That's amazing. Now, the average days on market, that's how long it takes to find a buyer for a home sold in Brookland Catholic area, during November was 17 days, which is significantly ahead of the DC's average at 28 days. And over the last month, we had 28 new homes come to market. That's the number of homes that were listed for sale. But this is an issue because we only have about 6 weeks of total inventory in all of Brookland Catholic, which means that we can't keep up with the demand. Now, though this is concerning for my buyers, this is a huge opportunity for my sellers who should strongly consider taking advantage. Now, as far as home sellers who accepted an offer during the month, otherwise known as pending, there were 23 of them in November, and they represented 82% of the 28 new listings that even came available for sale. There were 25 homes that sold in the month of November in all of 20017. That's down 13.8% over last month and up 8.7% over last year this time. So as the data shows, it's just a supply and demand issue. My agents have lots of qualified buyers who want to buy right here in Brookland and in the Catholic area, and they're willing to pay top dollar. I just need more houses for them. So if you're thinking about moving up, moving down, or maybe moving away, the perfect time could be for you, and it could be right now. Now, before I jump into the national data and explain how it affects us locally, feel free to text me an address, any address, and I'll shoot over a free market analysis on that specific home. Or you can schedule a confidential strategy session with me or my team using the link. Of course, you can call or email me anytime. I also want to thank the hundreds of thousands who watch my market insights and other informative videos, and the tens of thousands of families who have been able to benefit in some way from the information, and the thousands of clients we've served over the years. I will continue to work at being the most educated advisor on real estate topics in DC, Maryland, and Virginia. So when do most listings come on the market? In a normal market, it would be the second quarter of each year, the spring real estate market. Typically April, May, and June of every year, but the reality is that the market right now is anything but normal. The pandemic and coming out of the last couple of years is that the seasonality of traditional real estate has kind of been thrown out the window. So we'll start here. Home sellers have historically moved when something in their lives changed, a new baby, a marriage, a divorce, or a new job. Now this comes from Jessica Lautz, the Vice President of Demographics at NAR, National Association of Realtors. She goes on to say, the pandemic has impacted everyone, and for many, this became an impetus to sell and make a housing trade. The pandemic caused a lot of people to say, we need something different in a home. Now it goes on to say the pandemic likely spurred occupants to shorten their home stay as tenure in the home decreased from 10 years to 8 years. Now, according to the report, now this is important here. This is the largest single year change of home tenure since NAR has been collecting the data. The historical data showed that families used to move about every 6 years, but after the housing crisis in 2008, tenure in homes began to rise. What we're seeing in this new report is that, we're starting to see the tenure come down. Very interesting as we look at it, and here's what it looks like geographically, going all the way back to 1985. You'll see the average of about 6 years of some staying in their home, most people staying, some people staying longer, 7, 8, 9, 10 years. The average just over 9 years now in a home, over the last 10 years or so. Now, there are a lot of good reasons for that. A lot of people maybe didn't have the equity to make a move. Maybe they were underwater for a while in the home that they own. Maybe they just said, we're not gonna do anything. We're just gonna try to pay the house off. Now, coming out of a pandemic, we're seeing that dip down. Now, I'm certainly not saying that 1 year would make a trend by any stretch of the imagination, but I think we can safely say that it represents pent-up seller demand in all those years that folks have stayed in their homes. We can say the meaning of a home has dramatically changed. We can also say there's more equity in homes now than there has ever been before in history. All of this leading to many people thinking, maybe now's the time to make a move. And I do believe we'll start to see that in the winter. Now, let's take a look at what George Ratu at Realtor.com says. He said, the pandemic has delayed plans for many Americans and homeowners looking to move into the next stage of life, and that's no exception. Recent survey data suggests the majority of prospective sellers are actively preparing to enter the market this winter. So going back, a lot of reasons we just talked about, folks thinking about moving. This study is saying we're seeing a lot of those people preparing to enter the market this winter. In that same study, 65% said that they either just listed or plan to this winter. 93% said they've already taken the steps toward listing a home, including working with an agent. 36% have researched the value of their home and others in the neighborhood. And as well as we started making repairs and doing what they need to do to sell the home. I think today in this market, being prepared, being educated, and taking action, if appropriate, is what I want for you. Now, Danielle Hale says that this new listings have risen now for the second week in a row, with this recent survey data suggesting that a growing share of homeowners and potential sellers are eager to find new homes. Now, there's reason to believe this may be the start of a welcome trend, especially as we move into cooler months. As we look into the winter, the data shows that we're going to see more activity among sellers and among buyers than we've seen in quite some time, as seasonality has been thrown out of the window. Now, let's just talk for a minute about interest rates. Probably one of the biggest things that's going to be talked about as we go into the new year. What's going on with the interest rates? The overall outlook is interest rates are going to rise. And this is a look right now at the 30-year fixed. We've used this, many times over the last couple of years as we go back and look at January of 2020 prior to the pandemic, which is basically rates are knocking on the door of 4%. Right now, the average 30-year fix is right at 3.1%. Many calling for that rise to go into next year. Now, I'll show you what forecasters are saying, but if you were to ask me what's going to happen with interest rates, I think we're going to go back to where we were. This is a historical perspective on rates. Now, looking back at 2016, 17, 18, 19, around four normal years, I guess, quote unquote, normal years in real estate, and we bounced somewhere between 3.5% and 5%. Now, I think we're headed back there. I think we're headed back into a much more normal interest rate environment. Now, we've seen some phenomenal, awesome rates over the last year or so, historically low rates on a 30-year fix. And I think we're just going to head back to a time where we were prior to the pandemic. The bottom line here is context matters right now for the housing market and certainly for purchasing demand. The economy is improving. Millennials are continuing to age into their prime home buying years in large numbers. So the context remains good for the housing market. And I think overall, as we look at that, we can expect a rising interest rate environment going into next year. Now, I don't see that affecting the housing market dramatically, but it will cost more to buy a home in the coming months and years. Now, before we close, I'll quickly share some mortgage rate projections. This is an outlook from the four leading providers that we follow: Fannie Mae, Freddie Mac, MBA, which is Mortgage Brokers Association, NAR, as I mentioned earlier, National Association of Realtors. And what they're saying, sometime between the middle and the end of next year, forecasting between 3.5% and 4% in the average 30-year fix. So it is definitely going to cost more, I think. Now, you should expect interest rates to rise. And I don't have a crystal ball to say exactly what the interest rates are going to be. But as you can see, and I think we should all expect rising interest rate environment, and I'll continue to educate you as we go into the new year. Now, this next graphic is a home price forecast for 2022. Now, a lot of people are saying what's going on, what's going to happen next year to housing. I'm concerned. I'm concerned that, here we go again, all of that. Forecasters are calling for a 5.1% on average on housing appreciation. And you see anywhere from 7.5% to almost 3% appreciation on the low side. Now, this is a direct nod to seeing how more inventory will come into the market. The price will always be dictated by supply and demand in any market. Now, the other question that starts to come up and is on people's minds, at times, is the housing market going to crash? I'm concerned about what I've seen and forbearance and all the things that we know have happened in the real estate market. But the bottom line here is that housing sales are forecasted to increase this year and perform very well again in 2022. I want to remind you that last year in 2020, we sold 6.5 million homes in this country. And we're forecasted to sell more than that this year and even more than that next year. Which basically leading for the past 2 years, phenomenal years in the real estate market and a very, very good next year as well. Now, the slide shows you just where we are in the real estate market based on monthly inventory in the extreme seller's market that we're in. Thinking about selling your home? There's literally never been a better time. And I know I sound like a broken record, but this graphic just underscores it and underscores it going all the way back to 1999. What does the market look like? And it's been a great seller's market for those who have decided to sell. Now, the last question that I'll kind of address on these slides is that if you're a buyer saying, I don't know if I want to buy at the top of the market. When you look at price appreciation, it's certainly not at the top of the market, but I know that it may feel that way. For my sellers out there, if you're saying, if we sell, we're going to have to pay more for another home. That's why I've laid out the appreciation forecast, so you can see for yourself. Pay attention to the data. Now, the best time to buy a home is this year, and the best time to buy a home, the next best time rather, is right now. And this was a survey done by the Home Price Expectation Survey. Based on this year, all the way forward to 2026, buying a home, average price home, what appreciation is at stake by buying now versus not buying now? $111,000, just over $111,000 in real appreciation over the next 5 years. So as a buyer, helping you see what's at stake is part of my job. Now, I know you guys are seeing things in the news and hearing things from friends and family. Please know that I will continue to be your rock for all things real estate, giving you the facts and data, no fluff. So if you're thinking about moving up, moving down, or maybe moving away, your time could be now. Feel free to text me an address and I'll shoot over a free market analysis on that specific home, or you could schedule a confidential strategy session with me or my team using the link. Of course, you can call or email me anytime. Thanks.